Tori, you're about to read, I don't know if you know that you're down for the reading today. You're about to read from Hebrews, which is great. So are you ready to hear the word of God read to you? Yes? Okay, Tori, come and read to us from the letter to the Hebrews.
So Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 3 and 12 to 13. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Therefore, strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees. Make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather healed. This is the word of the Lord.
I'm going to move over here a bit, if that's all right, just so I can see the screen. Since you are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, imagine you're entering into an amphitheatre, a football stadium. Imagine you're entering in, coming up the tunnel, and there is this crowd of people around the whole stadium. And as you start walking towards the pitch, you can hear the volume increases because the crowd know and anticipate that you are about to enter the auditorium, the football pitch, the athletics stadium. And you can hear them chanting your name. Can you hear that in your head?
Yeah.
I like that.
I hear other noises as well.
Oh dear. Yeah, those are the ones you need to keep to yourselves, Pauline. That's right. Anyway, just that idea, Pauline, 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 Pauline. Can you hear the crowd singing your name, as you are surrounded by such a great crowd of witnesses who have gone before you and have run the race, the same race that you are running, the same effort included. They've got their story to sing and their story that they've run, that they've had tiring days, they've had exhaustion, they've had ups and downs, and they are cheering at the top of their voices for you. Can you hear the saints right the way through history, 2,000 years, singing for you, surrounding you, cheering you on for your day today, for your place, for this place, for your life. Can you hear that? Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great crowd or cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer, the one who ran the race first, the perfecter of faith. He has run the race, the others have run the race, and they are cheering us on. Now imagine you're running around. Imagine you're running around. The gun has gone. You're running around and you fall. You trip and stumble. The crowd respond, "Ah." And they start shouting your name even more to encourage you to get up once again. Come on, you can do it. Come on, come on, come on, come on. It gets louder and louder and louder. And you feel their pleasure. You feel their enjoyment of you running the race. They want you to succeed. Everyone is on their feet, shouting and cheering so that you will get to the finish line. And you break the tape. And your brother or your sister or your mother or your father wrap their arms around you. They lift you onto their shoulders. And the crowd go wild. For you. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Being picked up off the floor once again. Has anyone this week fell down? Has anyone kind of got tripped up? Has anyone had sin entangled them? Has anyone got bogged down and has felt alone? Has anyone felt overwhelmed on this race, on this journey, on this mission? Has anyone this week felt like, oh, do I have to do it again? Do I have to get up again? Do I have to do this all over again? Is it really worth it? Hear today the saints calling your name and see Jesus. Can you see him? The one who started it all off. Can you see his way of running this race? Fix your eyes on him. May God give us strong knees. May he strengthen our frame so that we can run with perseverance. Oh. Today we're finishing off our series on longing. And I really enjoyed it. I have to say, it's been a pleasure connecting with my longings and hearing about your longings. And the last longing that we are finishing up with today is adventure. For those who are Harrison Ford-like in their personalities. But maybe because we often think adventure is linked to those kind of people, we discount ourselves from this very thing. And yet I believe that every single one of us in this building has a longing for adventure. I believe all of us, even the more timid among us, are risk takers deep down. That we get bored when life is just the same. And every now and again, we throw a curved ball into a conversation or into an activity or something just to spice things up a little. There is inside of us a little mischievous aspect. A desire for the unusual, a desire for the fresh, for the new. Even those of us who like routines and for things to be the same. There is a desire for letting go, for jumping out of a tree, for risking things. However, many of us, having thrown ourselves out of trees, have wounded our faces somewhere along the way. We've got scratched, we've got let down, we've got dropped somewhere along the line. And there is a tendency, even for the most adventurous of us, to think, I'm not going to do that again. And we close that aspect of our lives down. You relate to this? And there are moments when we feel confident and bold and adventurous, and there are other moments in our lives when we feel the complete opposite. And even as I'm beginning to unhook that thought in you this morning, you're beginning to go, where am I on that spectrum? Am I feeling adventurous and risk-taking, or am I feeling anxious and nervous? Where am I on that scale? Am I feeling yay, or am I feeling not me? Someone else first. I believe that every single one of us, that God has an adventure, and I think that there is something in us that God wants to pull out again today, and for us to connect with again today, so that we become connected to the calling that lies deep within us, that we become connected again to the adventure that lies within us. That point was actually quite important. I know that you're all distracted over there, but that point, there is a point that we need to be reconnected to this adventure that we feel lies within us. Now, here's a few quotes just to make the point. Desire is one of the most powerful forces God God sets within human beings. There is a desire for adventure within you for a purpose. It's given you your character and personality. John Eldridge also said, life is not a problem to be solved, it is an adventure to be lived. Okay, just take your life at the moment. Just have a think, your life. Your life is not a problem to be solved, or a series of problems to be solved. But it's an adventure to be lived. Does that relate to you? G.K. Chesterton said, an adventure is only an inconvenience rightly considered. Although walking across to the South Pole is a big inconvenience, isn't it? But all adventures are things that are not quite right, that we overcome by perseverance, by energy, and by wit, and by intelligence, and by creativity, and by passion, and by community, and by life. And that makes us feel good, doesn't it? People often say, will there be work in heaven? Yeah. When Jesus returns to this earth, there'll still be the need for creativity. There'll still be the need for risk-taking. There'll still be adventure, I believe. Wow, what a place. Hey, this is me setting off on my adventure just a couple of weeks ago at the airport, and I flew with Ethiopian Airlines. Now, that's a risk. The plane was older than me, at least that's what it felt like, and we made it. And yeah, it was great, and I was greatly relieved. We entered into Addis Ababa, which is bustling and dynamic and broken and on the way to being something. It's very much a place in process. There was a scaffolding on every corner made of wood. There was no right angles in Addis Ababa. They just put eucalyptus scaffolding on the outside of their buildings and then pour concrete in the middle, and somehow it turns into blocks of flats. A bit later on in the trip, the rain came down, and Addis. This is like Oxford Street. It's quite different, isn't it? And just everything changed when the rain came down. So this was we journeyed at the dry season, at the beginning of the dry season. So we'd had 6 months of wet season, and now we're moving into dry season, which is why the country was so green, because it had been raining for 6 months. But if this was just one day of rain, imagine what 6 months of rain must do to Addis Ababa. Whew, hard work. Anyway, we got welcomed by the team, and they gave us coffee. This is a traditional Ethiopian coffee festival or ceremony, and the coffee cups are laid on the floor. They kind of make the floor. It would be traditionally it would be done out in the villages where there'd be just dirt and ashes. So they put grass down to make it a little bit like laying a tablecloth. So the grass is a symbol of the kind of making it all very posh, and the flowers. And then you see the coffee being what's the word? Roasted, heated up. I couldn't think of the proper word. Roasted, and then they'll be ground, and then the coffee will be made in the black pot in the middle. Coffee, fantastic. What a great drink. Ethiopians gave it to us. And then we travelled out of town, and you can see how the land, it's just been harvested. And you can see at the top, they're kind of Van Gogh-like haystacks right by the sides of the road. And you can see that there's already a lot of cattle and a lot of donkeys in the countryside. So Sendercow don't actually send cows or donkeys or anything like that over there. They just help people to make the most of the ones that they've already got. The country is beautiful. Obviously, this is at the hillier end of the country, but stunning green hillsides that compare to our Snowdon or Lake District, just stunning. And you can see the fields, each farmer trying to make the most of the land that they've got. They live in really simple housing. This is traditional huts that are still being made today, made of eucalyptus, and then they will get mud and grass and cover the outside of the hut, and then put grass on the top of the hut. This is from the top of a cafe in a city called Sodo, and you can see that there's a mosque on the left, and there's, I don't know if this shows up. No, it's not showing up. You can see just to the right of the mosque there are some new tin-roofed kind of huts, and to the right of that there is a whole load of a kind of shanty town. And Sodo is in the process of being renovated, and everything is kind of gradually getting improved and developed. A bustling place. On the roads, everything is like medieval. You can see this cart has metal wheels, not rubber wheels, and it's just being pulled along by a donkey. The donkey are often pulling loads way too heavy for them. And one of the things that Sendercow does is help people to make the most of their donkey without exhausting the donkey, so that they don't overload the donkey. And everyone travels along the road in this way. I wonder if this is Irish potatoes in the bag or onions. I don't know quite what it is. And living accommodation is obviously very kind of hand-to-mouth and very basic. Water is a key element to life, and fetching water is a kind of daily routine. And obviously the donkeys and the carts are used for that. Here are some coffee jugs that have been made in clay, and the donkey's taking that to market. Other forms of transport, the tuk-tuk. Had a ride in one of those, which is great. The local bus service. This is the number 5, and it goes up to Whiteway. The road needs a little bit of development, but this is quite a significant little town. And this is the high street. When you get out of town, the roads change even more, and that's why we needed to get up to the villages. We needed a Land Cruiser, and we were bumping around at 3 to 5 miles an hour trying to get there. On the side of the road, you often see kids huddled around a football game, table football out in the open, sometimes table tennis. And pool was the other game that seemed to be quite popular. And here are the eucalyptus trees that are cut down and then lined up. You see this again and again and again. Suddenly kind of come across this kind of timber yard of eucalyptus, which they grow really quick and straight, and they use for everything. And you can see here's a house that Jack's built. I don't know if his name is Jack, but he's built a house, and you can see how he's just ready to... He's doing it. He did that last year, and he's waiting because it's too dry now. So he'll wait for the wet season to come, for the rain to fall on the earth, and then he can use the moisture that's already there to make the kind of walls solid. So he's got another 6 months before that. And you can see here's a house in process, and in fact the village have come round and they're making the house at the moment, this new house for this family. This is a girl sitting in front of her house, and this is one of Sendercow back gardens. And she's sitting underneath a handheld pump, bringing water up from 20 feet beneath the surface. And it's this pump that has enabled this growth to happen. And it's this pump that has made the significant shift in her life potential and in her family's, and is meaning that her garden is now blossoming in every way. Just a bit of... how people are living. I think I don't know how many litres is in each one of those. I think it's 20 litres. I think it's 5 litre cans, and the donkey carries 20 litres, which is 20 kilos. I tried to lift up 2, and I was struggling. And the donkey would go down to the well in the village on this occasion, and this was again one of the developments that had happened about 4 years ago, made a big difference to the village. But in other places they need these handheld pumps. Livestock is all over the place, and Sendikau are helping the farmers make the most of the livestock. So rather than just having lots of them, they have less of them and try and give them the best future that they've, really take care of your livestock. So here's a really good example of some cows who've been given some really good forage. Forage? Is that the right word? Yeah. Fodder. Thank you, that was the word. And goats are all over the place. Goats are good for milk, and they look pretty. And chickens. And chickens are one of the things that you can buy. I think at Sendikau will sell you a chicken for £7 now. And a chicken is a fantastic way of getting a family income, but also protein. So they'll use some of the eggs for themselves, but they will also sell some of the eggs as well, which will make a huge difference to them. And there's chickens all over the place. Here's Kindo, and Kindo is just saying thank you for the chickens that he was given a year ago. Kindo was an alcoholic. He was struggling. He had no hope. He was desperate, and he was chosen by the rest of the group, the community group, as someone who, although his life was at a bad place, he was chosen as someone who they thought that he could, given the right environment, he could change. And so they took a risk on him, and they invested in Kindo, training and support, but they also gave him 6 chickens. And here is what's called a passing on ceremony, because Kindo is standing up saying, my chickens have reproduced, and I'm now going to give away 6 chickens to another family. In fact, he gave 2 lots of 3 chickens to 2 families to pass on the gift. And he said with great pride, I have moved from being poor, and now I am rich. His life was completely transformed, and so was the life of his family. And here's the community group that we sat around with and danced around the room with. And here's Kindo and his wife in their kitchen garden that they have been trained how to maximize the use of their soil and the land. And he really was a man of joy and delight as he danced across, carrying his chickens that flapped. 6 chickens is difficult to carry. It was quite a sight watching this guy carry 6 chickens and kind of sort of throw them at the family. Hygiene is really important, and it's a very simple thing, but this jerry can be used with a piece of string just to create and make it more likely that you'll wash your hands more often. What we take for granted is harder if water is an issue. So this little tip tap, as it's called, is designed very simple to make, and people use it all the time. And this is actually by the ash in the cup is like a kind of soap. It kind of creates a gritty kind of thing to just add to the cleaning. And John Cleverly, did anyone see his blog this week? He had got someone in wherever he is to create a mural on the side of I think it was on the back of a toilet, and about tip tap and about hygiene. It's very simple technology, but it makes a huge difference. The farmers are trained by people who are doing it themselves, community workers, and here's the community workers compound where they have kind of laid it out in order to give an example to the farmers. So the farmers will sometimes come down from the villages to learn from them. And here's one of them, Ndele, who I've spoken about before, and she was the one who fell to the floor when I was just saying how impressed I was with her garden, and she fell to the floor, and she gave thanks to God for all that she had received from the ground, and she wanted to ask for more of God's blessing on her life. She's looking after her 2 kids. And she started off by saving a few pence, less than a few pence, and then it became 5 pence, and then it became 10 pence, and eventually became like 20 pence a week that she would save. And these are her 2 kids, 14 and 11. What's significant to me about the journey was that Ndele is exactly the same as me. She's worried about her teenage boy. She's worried about her teenage daughter. She's worried about security. She's worried about the future. She has hopes and aspirations. She's just the same as me and you. Strengthen the feeble knees. She needs help. She needed encouragement. This is Labso. Labso is standing by his tree that he planted a year ago. You can tell that because it's now at the year mark. And next year it will be significantly higher. And in the front is coffee. Can you see these beans on the tree here? This is coffee beans. And this is his family. And again, Labso was someone who was at the bottom of the rung, desperate. And what was lovely about Labso and his wife was just how they connected together when we were chatting to them. I will always remember saying goodbye to Labso. After the conversation had kind of come to an end, we kind of sat next to each other, and then he rested his head against mine. And that moment of tenderness and connection made me feel that I wasn't the white foreigner from England, but I was just like him. And we were dads together. This is his garden and his scarecrow. Juan Wasson was the guy who led us around, and then Misfin is at this other end. Misfin was another guy right at the bottom. A few years ago he had nothing, and he had 1 crop a year, and the rains would come, it would be okay. When the rains didn't, he was desperate, and Sendikau really helped him. You can see the Swiss chard in the background, the giant Swiss chard. Amazing. And these are his cabbages. What's interesting is that those with faith, those that also find Jesus, their crops and their energy and their life seem to produce even more than those without. And there's something about that picture which is just fantastic. There's such a joy to see it for me. This is a graduate farmer who a few years ago stopped having Sendikau support. And the way that Sendikau works is that it injects life into places, and then it lets that life do its own work. It's not about making someone dependent on Sendikau, it's about releasing them so that they become teachers and trainers themselves. So he's become quite a significant character. He's the Alan Sugar of his village. And he's multiplying and growing and diversifying, and these are his chili plants. I mean, he really has got things licked. He's now got a little shop down the road. He's got a relationship with the guy who is the butcher in the community. He's an entrepreneur, this guy. He's growing, and he's doing a fantastic job of it. There's some chilies. And he's so proud. This is Tariq, and Tariq was given 20 seedlings, 20 fruit seedlings grafted onto a good root. I am the vine, you are the branches. He was given 20 seedlings and the advice and techniques about how to maximize this. And his life has completely transformed over the last few years, so that now he has 5,000 seedlings. And he's training up others to do the same. And these seedlings he will sell, and they produce great apple crops that are more resistant and really good value, so that he's going to get 8,000 burr from his crop this year. He's moved from being someone who is poor to someone who is rich. And he was giving away seedlings to others, passing on the gift. We came up one mountain, and the horses came down towards us, shouting and cheering, and it was quite terrifying, but also quite welcoming. And I got to ride one of the horses up the hill again. The families were just like your families, and the personalities of the kids were just like our kids. You know, some of them are quiet, and some of them are noisy. Some of them can't sit still, and others have got a twinkle in their eye, and it's great. And we played all kind of games that day. It was a spontaneous moment of connection. The Brits sang Hokey Cokey and 10 Green Bottles, and they sang their songs, and it was brilliant. And just beautiful kids. Yeah. I wonder what kind of future these kids have. What kind of adventure has God got for these kids? What kind of life does he have for them? The kingdom of God is available to the poorest of the poor, said Jesus. This is Mr. Arsenal, Mr. Newcastle, and Mr. Manchester United. They were the 3 drivers of our vans, and they kept us going, and they were fantastic. I was known as Mr. Chelsea. Hello, Mr. Chelsea. We actually watched Manchester United versus Arsenal while we were out there, which was great. He's got a look in his eye, hasn't he? And he's wearing his special red coat for the occasion. Any of you ladies need the hairdressing salon in the high street? They're the same as us. They have the same desires, the same longings, the same dreams. This guy was so proud of his van. They're the same as us, aren't they? I mean, they even look the same. This guy came round the corner and he said it was as if 2 brothers had met. It was just fantastic. And what was even better was that they had exactly the same hats as well. I mean, it's just remarkable, isn't it? You travel across miles and up dusty roads, and then you bump into your look-alike brother. It's fantastic. Absolutely hilarious. And then we flew back into London, which is a big city, full of infrastructure and capacity and capability and power and strength and significance. And here we are, back in Bath. So that was my little adventure that stretched me and challenged me. There is something about journeying together. A few very short little points here. There's something about us doing this together. I felt more secure and more able to do this journey because I was part of a crowd than I was on my own. If I had taken myself with Tori to this place, I would have been petrified. But I was not alone. I was with a crowd of friends. And together we did amazing things. We did amazing things. Maybe you need to reconnect with your group in order to fulfill the adventure that is within you. Don't do it on your own. Don't do it on your own. Share it. Do it with others. Let them share it with you. This sense of keeping going, I mean, that kind of where we started at the beginning of this thought, really, that you know, we get tired. We got tired. But there are others there to resource us, and of course there's God on hand to fill us. The pleasure comes for all these people in the picture from overcoming the obstacles that they are facing. Does that relate to you? The pleasure comes from overcoming the obstacles, the inconveniences. What is the issue in your life right now? The pleasure is coming because you will overcome that with the help of your friends, with the help of God, and with the help of this community. And I believe also that the joy came because we were in outward-looking mode. The joy came because this adventure was not about me succeeding, not about me having an experience, but about me giving and me learning what it's like to be in an environment of outpouring. And maybe that's true for you. Your biggest adventure is not the one where you get the experience, but where you give something, where you express something. I believe that there's such capacity in this room right now, such capability, such adventure lies ahead of us as we step out and reach out.